Pets have been around pretty much as long as humans have existed, but our obsession can have some serious consequences. Have we gone too far? This is the bizarre history of pets. Americans will spend close to $110 billion on their pets just this year. But that's chump change compared to the lavish private zoo owned by one of the most famous drug lords of all time, Pablo Escobar. Dogs and cats weren't enough. He preferred rhinos and zebras, but his love for exotic pets turned into a complete nightmare that Colombia is still dealing with.
The so-called cocaine hippos could multiply to 1,000 in just one generation.
When Escobar died in 1993, most of his animals were shipped off to zoos, but moving his 4 hippos was nearly impossible, and they were left behind. Since then, the so-called cocaine hippos have been running wild and multiplying rapidly, disrupting the fragile ecosystem and creating a big problem for the country. But Colombia isn't alone here. America has a huge problem too. There are about 100 million feral cats living in the US. They may look like the domesticated cats we all know and love, but they're actually wild animals.
Cats kill around 2.4 billion birds and 12.3 billion mammals every year.
Feral cats who are raised without any human contact quickly revert to a wild state. And since they are not native wildlife, they don't fit into the predator-prey ecosystem, killing millions of birds and small wild animals who are struggling to survive themselves. And the street is no place for a cat. I mean, just look at ancient Egypt. Cats were seriously pampered and considered almost godly. Just look at their sculptures and paintings. They're everywhere. But you may be surprised to hear that cats weren't the only pets in ancient Egypt. In fact, dogs were there too, and stood guard to protect families. So when exactly did dogs become man's best friend? Well, it's not that simple. Some experts say it actually happened twice and thousands of miles apart. Once in Europe about 16,000 years ago, and again in Asia about 2,000 years later. But others believe it was much earlier than that. They say that early hunter-gatherers were the ones that tamed and bred wolves. Others don't give humans that much credit at all. They believe that wolves domesticated themselves. But regardless of exactly when and where it happened, it's clear that dogs crossbred with wolves, traveled to different places in the world, and ultimately became domesticated creatures. The issue is that we may have gone overboard with the dog breeding. Yeah, they're cute and all, but choosing dogs based on facial features causes significant health problems for them. Take bulldogs, for example. They looked a lot different than they do now. And the worst part, all the changes are making these dogs more disease-prone and causing them unbearable pain. So please, if you're looking for a new companion, remember, having certain pets can have some serious consequences, especially exotic pets. Every year, millions of exotic animals are taken from their habitats and illegally sold to live in homes as pets, and these animals are suffering at every stage of the supply chain. But the obsession with exotic pets isn't anything new. Enter the Romans. Roman Emperor Nero was so impressed by a tigress he saw fighting at the Colosseum, he decided to take her home and name her Phoebe. She even joined him at the dinner table. So, with a lot of power comes a lot of weird pets? Well, seems to be the case for US presidents. From President Herbert Hoover's opossum to Rebecca, the Coolidge family pet raccoon that walked on a leash. The White House has been home to some interesting pets over the years, but President Theodore Roosevelt takes the cake. The Roosevelt family pretty much turned the White House into a zoo. They had horses, dogs, a parrot, guinea pigs, and can't forget that one-legged rooster. But just because you can, doesn't necessarily mean you should. Sure, the White House had the space and help to properly take care of these animals, but it hasn't been the case in other places. I mean, Pablo Escobar smuggling hippos from Africa is an extreme example. But just like Escobar, the animals you choose to have in your home can have a big impact. A recent study showed that 53% of invasive vertebrate species have been introduced through the exotic pet trade. And if you're thinking about an exotic pet, or any pet for that matter, please do your research. There's a reason why dogs and cats make great pets. They've been domesticated for thousands of years. Maybe leave the pet tigers alone. We all saw how Tiger King ended.